boy is electric.
Welcome back to my garage, everyone. This is where the Victron Multiplus inverter charger is behind me, connected to my Pylontech Us3000C batteries. Now in a cabinet, yes. If you saw my first video about the ultimate home storage battery, for me, that's ultimate for me, I explained what I wanted from a battery and all the wants and needs. And it was a long list, wasn't it? A long list of things that I wanted. So I want to do this video now that it's in and operational. Yes, it is actually working now. I want to do this video to review what I said I wanted to see whether that has materialized into reality. Does it do all the things that I expected, that I wanted it to do? Or am I disappointed? Do I regret it in any way going for a Victron inverter and Pylontech batteries for my home storage battery solution? It's a Victron 485000, so that's 5000 VA, 48 volts, 48 volt low voltage batteries. They're 3.5 kilowatt hours each, and I've got 5 of them, so that's 17.5 kilowatt hours. In the first video that I covered, I said I've got 90% depth of discharge of these batteries. It's actually 95, so I've got another 5% capacity that I didn't really think I had. But I've actually set them up not just for 10% depth of discharge, but I've set the voltage down a little bit. I've reduced it from 52.4 volts down to 52, so it's never going to charge to its maximum anyway. I'm not sure how much that'll affect capacity. Probably not a lot, hardly anything, I would imagine. I'll do the capacity test later. But that's the advantage of having a bigger battery than I need, that I can set these parameters and look after the battery and not drain it right low and not cycle it very often. So it should last my lifetime. So for all those doubters that think these batteries are going to be replaced in 2 or 3 years, I'm 54 years old. I expect this to last my lifetime. So anyway, let's get to it. Let's talk about what I wanted and what I thought before I bought the battery and while I was installing it, and whether that has materialized into exactly what I wanted. First thing off was the company, wasn't it? I discussed choosing the right company, and I wanted to choose Victron and Pylontech as a partnership for my home storage battery rather than other manufacturers. And the sort of things I mentioned was the longevity of the company, how long they've been around, whether they do software updates and how good those updates are when they come, what the support's like. And with Victron, I talked about the fact that it's a very different way of doing support. With some battery manufacturers, if you have a problem, you call the battery manufacturer. Well, you don't with Victron, you call the distributor. And more often than not, you actually solve the problems yourself if they're software problems, because there's lots of information online, there's lots of forums, there's lots of people using these in the marine industry all over the world, and off-grid solutions. So lots of people doing a lot more complex things than I am. So I should be able to find what I'm looking for support. I have had firmware upgrades go through on the Multiplus and on the GX device. They have worked seamlessly. That's been perfect. I have had issues that I've been resolving myself using the Victron, so the self-support side really works. I am enjoying having this solution. So it is a robust, resilient, good solution where the firmware is automatic. I have had no problems at all. Well, I've got one minor problem with it so far. The GX device that's just up there communicates with Wi-Fi and occasionally drops out and needs a reset. But I've been able to choose a parameter that says if it loses contact, then it does an automatic reboot anyway. So that should be better. But what it needs is an RJ45 cable, a hole drilled through the wall behind me and into where the internet router is, and connect it up with an RJ45 cable. That will make it perfect. That's the only issue that I've had so far, the Wi-Fi connection from the house to that GX device. The cabinet I bought, it's a standard rack mount cabinet, so it's the standard 19-inch U measurement wide. It's 18 U's high, and I have 5 3U batteries, so I've got 3 U's spare. So I've used those U's for spacers to space out the batteries to create some air between them, and that's how I've basically gone about doing it. The hardest bit about finding the cabinet was finding one in stock, so that I didn't have to wait too long, but then also finding the shelves for it, because what you really want is a shelf that the battery can sit on but doesn't take up any use space, and I couldn't find those, so the shelves I've got aren't ideal. If I find better ones, I'll probably remount the batteries in the cabinet at a later date. Again, that's something I can do. I can look after that myself. The next thing that I talked about was monitoring and live. Yep, it is live, it is instantaneous. I'm very happy with the data that's coming out of the Victron solution. That's VRM, Victron Remote Monitoring. And also the data, because it's an open interface, the data is available through Home Assistant as well, which, if you remember, that I'm using that. So I do have on my tablet live data all the time, showing me battery percent, power going in and out, solar, all of those sort of things. And it really is instantaneous. It's live. So within a second to 3 seconds of watching, it refreshes. The level of detail I'm getting from the monitoring is excellent as well. One of the things that I've noticed already is it's running cooler. It's running cooler than it did when I had a smaller battery. So because there's more batteries in there, there's less load on them, so it's doing less work. There's less heat coming from it. I don't think it's just because I've got it in this cabinet with the spacing, but the temperature is basically holding to what the ambient temperature is of the garage. So whatever's happening on the day. And I've seen it go as low as, I think, 9 or 10 degrees overnight, while we've had it installed in more winter conditions when it's been frosty outside. But then it's gone up to about 21 as a maximum, whereas the other batteries that I've had before, I've seen them at a maximum of nearly 40, so it really struggles when it gets into the mid to high 20s and 30 degree temperatures. Then the batteries just seem to escalate in temperature a lot. It'll be interesting to see how this solution copes, but it's looking better from what I've seen. And I like that amount of data. I like the detail that I can see the different cell voltages inside each of the batteries. I can see the averages. I can see the temperatures. There's so much data available that it's a joy. So if you're looking for something where you never look at it and never look at the data and you don't want to touch it, this solution is probably not for you. But if you love the data, if you like to have some control and know what's really going on and optimize it, this really is an ultimate solution. What about charge rate? What about the performance of this battery solution? Well, I was expecting 3.6 kilowatts of continuous power rate charging. What I'm actually getting is up to 4 from the AC side and 3.6 on the DC side. So that's where there was some confusion about some people saying I've seen 4 or just over 4. Well, that's what's visible on the power from your AC side of the house going into the battery, but onto the actual battery that the battery is reporting, that's showing 3.6 kilowatts going in. Power out. Well, power out, I thought a continuous 3.6 as well. That was what I was expecting, but I'm really pleased to see that I've seen this at 4.8. So this is getting up to the 5 kilowatts, the 5000 VA of what it can output. Now, whether that's continuous or whether that's just for prolonged spikes, I don't know. But way over 4 kilowatts I've seen quite often. So we're turning multiple devices on, the battery is just picking it up and handling it, and I haven't seen it overloaded yet. So performance wise of the charging rates and the power out rates, I am extremely happy with. It's performing better than I hoped. Capacity then, I talked about my method of choosing how many batteries to have and what storage capacity, and I kept adding more and more for extra contingency. So what's that working out like? Overnight, where I used to empty half of a 5 kilowatt hour battery, so about 2.5 kilowatt hours used. So I'd wake up in the morning, we'd have 50% battery left. Waking up now and it's sometimes 90% left, sometimes it's 89, 88, 87, and even when I've tried to work it really hard overnight and actually use some energy overnight, we're not big users of energy overnight, it still had 75 to 70%. So it seems really hard to drain it down. So things have transformed because of the capacity. With the smaller battery, I was always conscious and always nervous of how much are we going to drain the battery down, and I was in that not very good situation, I suppose, where I was trying to protect the charge of the battery and not use it. But the whole point of having the storage battery is you want to use it and get the benefit from it. So that's been reversed, and now I'm so comfortable being able to use it. We can use as much energy as we like. And I know it's sort of spring, summer months at the moment, but we can use as much power as we like overnight, and it will be recharged the next day, and it doesn't really dent it. So we did actually have a problem while I was on holiday. I'd set a parameter incorrectly and the house wasn't using the solar power. All the solar power was being dumped out to the grid and all of the house power was coming from the battery. So we were basically running on battery completely, almost as if you were off grid. And that went on for 3 days. So when I got home, I really expected the battery to be dead, but it wasn't. We had 50% left. Charlotte, who was looking after the house here, she was obviously very economical with what she used, but we went 3 days and it didn't go below 50%. So I am very happy with the capacity of this system. It's working well. Do I regret having probably 1 battery more than I need? Needs a funny word, isn't it? Because if you followed that video that I did before about the ultimate battery, my needs were probably about 10 kilowatt hours. I added an extra battery, and then I said, sod it, I'll add another one. So yeah, I've possibly got 7 kilowatt hours more than I need, but am I unhappy with that? No, because this is only spring and summer. I'm really going to get the usage out of this in the winter, and I know with the heating the house with electricity, I'm really going to use that. So I think we will use the capacity of this battery. So I haven't wasted my money. Very, very happy with capacity as well. There's definitely a sense of freedom. Now that we have an abundance of energy from the solar panels, and we have an abundance of power and stored capacity with the battery, all of the issues about, do we turn this on? Can I put a wash on now? Can I do this? Should I do this? Should we do this together? All of those things have just disappeared, and basically we just do anything we like now, and there's a sense of freedom. You know, I can put a wash on in the middle of the night, first thing in the morning before the sun comes up. I can charge the car. I can dump the energy out of this battery into the car. I can do all sorts of things that I would have not done before because I was preserving the power or waiting for the solar power. Now we've got much more energy available, and it's available more flexibly. So yeah, the solution's really, really working. The one thing that I would say though is that because we've got that freedom and flexibility, I have noticed that I'm less prone to turn things off. So I'm getting lazy, I'm getting a little bit wasteful, and I'm not saving those few watts here and there that I did before when I was working with a smaller battery and trying to minimize usage. Now that I've got more capacity, more power, I think I am becoming a little lazy and a little bit more wasteful. So I've got to watch that. The big one for me was the ramp up and ramp down. So that's the performance of the battery, how it responds to a new load, or how it responds in charging, going up and down. So as the solar power goes in and out, as your power needs in your house go up and down, the demand on the battery can change instantaneously by a kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, 3 kilowatts. The issue is, how long does it take for the battery to respond? It's not instantaneous. There are rules and regulations in place about how quickly they can respond. Some of the batteries that I've tested before, and I tested Pure Drive, Give Energy and Huawei, they responded differently. They'd pick up the load instantaneously, but it wouldn't be fully picked up for maybe 10, 20, sometimes even close to 30 seconds before the load was fully picked up. So that ramp up or ramp down would mean that you'd have import from the grid, or you'd have more export to the grid than what you wanted. So it's down to the speed of the battery, but it's also the rules that it's following. And I guess some follow the rules better than others, and some interpret them different, and that's why you get different performances. And some have faster chips in them and are analysing the data faster. You know, who knows what all the reasons are, but I expected 0 delays with this. I expected instant. So a 3 kilowatt load would instantly come on and instantly go off. And the reason for that is because I've created a parallel grid here by taking our house consumer unit and putting that on the protected circuits of the Victron inverter. I'm effectively providing power outage protection for the entire house. And that means, because we are running the house through the battery, we are in effect running a parallel grid. And the Victron inverter can therefore not follow the rules for the ramp up and ramp down, because it's handling it itself locally, and basically only going to the grid as and when it needs to. That's the idea, and that's how a Tesla PowerWall works. With the gateway, it isolates and almost firewalls the house from the grid, and then just uses it as and when, and hence it can be instantaneous with its performance and response. This solution's working. So yes, I can turn the oven on and there is no grid usage. I can look at the Octopus Energy in-house display monitor and it doesn't go up. It sits at 0 or -20, exporting slightly to the grid. You don't see anything at all. Occasionally you'll see a flicker where it's partway between, but you know it's not a ramp up and ramp down. It's just caught that instantaneous second. So I can turn an air fryer on, a toaster on, the hob on. I can turn all these things on and we don't get a blip. Nothing whatsoever. So ramp up and ramp down is the best I've seen. This is much faster than even the Pure Drive that I saw, which had a Victron inverter inside, and I was able to adjust to get it to work really well. We wake up in the morning at something like 6 or 7 in the morning and see how much grid energy we've drawn, trying to balance to that 0 point so we're not importing and not exporting very much. And I used to see the lowest I got to was like 9 or 19 watt hours. And with the batteries that didn't perform so well, so that'd be the Huawei and the Give Energy, you'd see a 1/10 or 2 even overnight when it was trying to balance to 0. I wake up and this is 0, 0.00, and if it's not 0, it's 0.001. It's absolutely nothing. So we have no grid draw in the mornings. That's from midnight through to 6 or 7 in the morning. Throughout the day, if we had an empty day, so we didn't have any loads and it's just the base load of the house, say we went on holiday for a week, then I'd expect probably 2.5 tenths from a storage battery normally, with ramp up and ramp down and the balancing to 0. And the same again on 2.5 tenths of export as well. Well, this would be under a tenth, and probably a tenth to 2 of export. I do have it balanced so it's more towards export than it is import, to keep import from the grid at 0, but it's only a couple of tenths going out and virtually nothing. We're talking just a few watt hours coming in. So yeah, performance of this system and how it balances to 0 and how it ramps up and ramps down is absolutely fantastic. I am really, really pleased with this. Again, as good as a Tesla PowerWall in my opinion. I think probably the stats from the Tesla PowerWall are saying that it's a little bit better, but when they're talking such fine margins, I think it's fair to say that, you know, is 4.8 kilowatts as close to 5 kilowatts. You know, it's not quite there, so this isn't quite there to the performance of a Tesla PowerWall, but it's the closest I've seen, and it's what I wanted. I wanted to get close to that level, and I wanted that functionality. Because the house is protected by the battery, so if we have a power cut, it keeps going, I do have an isolator switch on somewhere over there. I have an isolator switch in there for the grid. So I can turn the grid off to the house and see what happens. And yeah, I've done that, and basically nothing. The lights don't even seem to flicker out here in the garage, and everything carries on as normal. So yeah, power cut protection as well is fantastic, and we've got the whole house covered. The only thing that I haven't put through on those protected circuits is the Zappi, so my car charger, the biggest load that I potentially have, biggest single load in the house. Everything else, so all our heating, all our cooking, hot water, even the Eddi's on there, I've set that to a limit of 50 amps. The Eddi is set to, I think, 49 amps. So if the house is using up to 49 amps, then the Eddi will start ramping down as well. So it's all set to keep us within 50 amps. And 50 amps is the limit of the Victron inverter on the transfer switch for that off-grid capability. So yeah, pretty much it's a tick on everything I wanted, I've got, and it ought to be. I've done my research, I've done enough testing, I've tried different battery solutions, which is more than most people get to do. So I've got a really good idea of what I wanted and how I wanted to achieve it. The only problem that I've got now is I have a problem that it's 95% working. There's one element that's not working, and that's the Zappi car charger. The battery isn't responding to the car charging. So if the cloud goes in while it's charging and it's on fast mode or eco mode, the battery's not going to come in and top it up. Now the interesting thing is that's what a lot of people ask for. A lot of people are saying online, how do I stop my battery from being drained while I'm charging the car? Well, I've got that system where yeah, it definitely doesn't drain because it doesn't see it, doesn't touch it. My charging from the Zappi is on solar, as if the battery isn't there, and that it works. But that's not what I want. I do want the battery to drain. So it is an interesting scenario that I want it to do its job properly, and I want the battery to cover the car charging as well. Not to just dump it all out and drain it, but it should top it up as clouds go over, and it should keep it more steady. And because it's all controllable with export margins and grid set points, I can balance that so it does a good job and doesn't drain the battery too much. Whereas at the moment, I don't get any drain at all. So I think the only thing I haven't really covered in all of that discussion is, do I feel that I've got good value? Is this a good solution that I'd recommend? It definitely is, because it's cost me a couple of $1,000 less than installing a Tesla PowerWall, and I've got similar performance, similar power out of it to a Tesla PowerWall, and more capacity. So usable out of this, I have, what is it, 5% off 17.5, so 0.8. I've got 16 to 16.5 kilowatt hours of usable energy in this battery system. So yeah, I'm very happy with the value as well. I haven't actually got the final price that I can share with you, and there are bits and pieces that I've bought separately, like the cabinet was £120. I bought that separately myself. The GX device came separately. That was a couple of £100. I have bought a Victron CT clip, which we're not using at the moment. That was £52. So there's some bits and pieces that I haven't got all added up to show you a final price, but it's in the region of $7,000 to $7,500, I think, for this solution. So that's for the Lynx DC box that's there, the Victron 48 5000 Multiplus II, the GX device, the cabinet, the batteries, everything. Let's call it 7.5, and it might be a little bit over, a little bit under, but you know, that's a couple of thousand less than I would have paid for a Tesla PowerWall. So very, very happy with this solution. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is do a video on capacity, sizing these home storage batteries. So if you're thinking about getting a home storage battery, I might just be able to help with this video that I'm planning on how to size a home storage battery. How do you know what sort of size you need? How do you know what to cater for? What things do you have to consider? So I'm planning on doing a video for that. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below, and I'll hurry it along and try to get round to it sooner, the more people say that they're interested. Next video that'll be coming out will be the monthly update. I think it's the 3rd or 4th of June today, so I'm several days behind on the end of month for May and getting the May update. The battery has been live for most of May, if not all of it, and we've had a really good month of solar as well, so there's lots to share with you. Lots of really interesting stuff as well. Second EVs coming too. I might be able to share some of the details, if not all of the details of that, in the next video. So make sure you tune in, make sure you keep watching and subscribing and liking these videos. Home storage batteries, solar panels, electric cars, it's all great stuff, isn't it? And electric heating, of course, don't forget that. And we've got to enjoy this weather, haven't we? May, June weather, we've got to enjoy it, because it won't be long, it'll be winter, and we'll definitely be talking about high energy prices and heating your home with electricity again. Take care, see you again soon for more videos. Bye for now.